special body. All your organs become special before you realize God. In order to have it, you can't simply have it by just thinking of it. You may think, I want to become a king. Can you become overnight king? You must work for it. There are so many other things to be attended to. So here Sri Ramakrishna stresses the importance of spiritual discipline. Without discipline, why do you talk? Why do you talk? Many people think talking is spirituality. I have seen many people go on talking morning to night. Talking. Nothing. Final result is zero. Talking is not spirituality. It is doing something positively yourself. Sit down. Close your eyes. Sit erect. Think deeply on the divine thought. Repeat divine name constantly. Do it for 12 years. Try to maintain purity in life, purity in words, purity in action. Try to be honest. Do practice all these values. Then you will know what spirituality is. Till then, it's only just like writing on a paper. Type it out and read it. That's all. Spirituality is intensely practical. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says, religion is intensely practical. Don't talk. The less you talk, the more you are religious. The less you talk, the more you are spiritual. The more you talk, the less you are spiritual. That's it. Let us understand the truth as it is. Then you will enjoy the beauty of it. So, Sri Ramakrishna has dealt with all these attitudes. If one can have this, any one of these attitudes, he can realize God. That's what Sri Ramakrishna tells. By thinking of the Lord all the time, one does not lose consciousness. On the other hand, one becomes God. Now, people are many times confronted with doubts and doubts. Doubts and doubts. Sri Ramakrishna tells, it is through God's grace that you understand. The doubts of the mind will not disappear without His grace. Doubts do not disappear without self-realization. People may answer your questions. As soon as the answer is just completed, another question raises its head. When that is answered, yet another question raises its head. So, it doesn't mean that you should not doubt it. You may have some questions, that's a different matter. What I mean to say is, we must put a full stop somewhere. And doubts they do, they are also a kind of obstruction on our way. Sri Ramakrishna has said like this, let me believe it and do it, practice. All these doubts, etc., Sri Ramakrishna himself will take care of them. Why should I bother about them? You must have that kind of attitude. We are reading chapter 11, Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Many devotees ask about their problems and they hear what Sri Ramakrishna tells them with full attention. Then some of the devotees would ask questions. That is it possible to realize God while leading a life of a householder? Because it seems it is very difficult to practice spirituality being a householder. So they find almost impossible. So when Sri Ramakrishna was talking about practical spirituality, naturally they were anxious to know whether they are eligible to have the vision of God. Is it ever possible? No doubt it's very difficult. Because householder life involves the person completely in the household affairs. It completely involves the person with so many entanglements. So the more and more the person is involved, the more and more he becomes worried, restless. It doesn't leave the person just at that. When a person shows some interest in the household life, that drags him more and more to enjoy the world. Enjoyment. So people lose themselves in the enjoyment of the world. It's not that they should not enjoy, but certainly they should not lose themselves in the enjoyment. That's the point. But how many people can exercise such control over their senses to keep the senses under check, to have enjoyment at the same time, not to go over the limit. The entanglements are such that the person becomes completely lost in the name of attending household duties. It forces him to think about his family, his friends, relations, his worldly matters. He is forced to think because of his entanglement. So, the mind is completely sitting on these things. Because it is through the mind only you have to reach God. Mind is the chief instrument, which is, in the final analysis, must be dissolved in the supreme consciousness. Mind provides a kind of abstraction. It covers, as it were, the light of the Atman. The mind, because of its turning outward, the entrance to the divine light is completely closed. So if we have to have the vision of God or to directly perceive the awareness, the supreme consciousness shining in our heart, we must go through the mind and rise above the mind. So what is to be done? The devotee is asking very seriously. Sri Ramakrishna said, anybody can realize God. Why do you feel discouraged? Because you are a householder, you can't have the realization. Only thing is, you must know how to live the life of a householder. So Sri Ramakrishna tells the technique of living the life. Live like a mud fish. Mud fish always lives in the mud, wet with water. But though it lives in the mud, it is not stained by the mud. So, even though you are in the world, you must not be influenced by the worldly samskaras. That is, though you are in the world, you must develop a kind of non-attachment to the world. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of a typhoid patient. Typhoid patient, he longs to drink water. He feels so thirsty. There is a lot of pickles and big jars of water kept in the room where the typhoid patient is living on. He feels attracted towards that. So, craving for the worldly things He is like the typhoid patients craving for water. The very thought of pickles, spiced pickles, brings water to one's mouth. In the same way, lusty thoughts are like the pickles. There is a lot of confusion in the world. Wherever he turns, wherever he moves on, he is in trouble. Nowhere in this universe one can be peaceful as long as his mind settles in the world. So he is pulled by so many things. So one cannot think of God when mind is pulled in 101 directions. All the mind energy is being dissipated in so many ways. Mind energy is very important to concentrate, meditate, and realize the Divine Supreme shining in our heart. So, one cannot think of God, Sri Ramakrishna says, if one doesn't live in solitude. He must go to a place where there is remarkable peace and silence. Silence. Where there is no noise, external noise, noise of worldliness. When in that situation, mind is easy to be concentrated. So we must have to resort to go occasionally to places where we feel highly elevated. Ashramas, temples, whatever place one may feel attracted towards thinking of the divine, he should do that. So thinking of God intensely in solitude helps a person to realize God, even though he may be a householder. How much time we spend on thinking so many things of this world. Even whole day, whole night is not enough for our thinking. Even in sleep we think. But we think of worldly things. Out of the 24 hours, how many hours we are thinking about God? Are thinking about the spiritual ideal or meditating upon the spiritual ideas? Why hours? How many minutes we are able to spare? Negligible. Negligible. So with this kind of life, certainly there is no hope certainly one cannot realize God. So, you must cherish an intense desire to have the realization of the Supreme, which must lead you to think seriously about the divine in a silent atmosphere, sacred place. That's first important teaching Sri Ramakrishna gives. Second important thing to be followed is everybody, without exception, should develop renunciation. Without renunciation, you cannot have God realization. That is, mind should renounce its craving for worldly things. That's all. Who is behind this Atma? Who is behind this mind? It is a Jiva, the embodied being. The embodied being must think and use his intellect, buddhi, to decide not to waste his time anymore in thinking about worldly matters. So, the act of withdrawing from the attention of the worldly things and focusing on the spiritual ideal, diverting all our energies to that end, must be practiced. Renunciation. Tyage naike amritatvama. Only by tyaga immortality is obtained. So even though one may be a householder, he need not have any attachment to the things or the people, but he should remain calm and peaceful and completely devoted to the spiritual ideal. That is very important. So, developing renunciation. Everybody has got that element, but we are not giving thoughts to that. So, we must develop. Thirdly, Sri Ramakrishna suggests that we must develop love of God. Love of God is very important. When once you develop that love, renunciation automatically follows. For example, the mother loves the child. How much she devotes her time and energy, everything for the sake of the child. A real mother, what I am talking about, not the modern mothers who today marry, next day divorce, next day do something else. What kind of life it is? So, a real mother who loves the child, heart and soul, that's very important. So once you develop that love, you feel like giving your whole thing to that ideal. That's the point. It all depends upon your intensity of love towards the being. So Sri Ramakrishna tells, no one is a stranger to this quality of love, but let us develop love of God. That's very, very important to remember. So, these three are very important. One is desiring to go to solitude. Second, developing renunciation. Third, cultivation of the love of God. Once you develop that love, then you can live the life of a householder. No danger. Without developing love of God, without cultivating spiritual values in life, if you step into householder life, it goes without saying, you will be miserable. Next point Sri Ramakrishna said was, people often ask this question, why there is bad, why there is good and bad everything? Why not there be good always? That cannot be. In the nature of the things, they all exist together. Virtue and vice exist in the world. But the divine spirit itself is unattached to them. For example, air is there. There may be good smell and bad smell. But air itself is not attached to them. So also, good and evil, righteousness and unrighteousness, they always exist in the world. They have got their values in a limited way. Everything has got a purpose in the scheme of the creation. Even the wicked people sometimes are very useful to control the rough tenants. So, we should analyze the things like this and settle down ourselves properly. Not complaining over the world. Complaining will not make you all right. It makes you more miserable. To be not miserable is not to complain. What are the main obstacles in our realization? Why we are not able to realize God? Again and again people ask questions. Sri Ramakrishna clearly points out, realization is not possible as long as mind is attached to lust and gold. These two things are main obstacles. Of course, there is third obstacle, which is also very serious, that is anger. These three are enough to take a person to hell. Even if you go to heaven, you will be having the experience of hell if you have these three: lust and gold and anger. If these three are there, you will be in hell only. So what is to be done? Practice of discipline is absolutely necessary. Without doing anything, you want a realization of God by magic. Everyone has to practice discipline. Everyone's mind is different. Everyone's mind is having different samskaras, good and bad. To that extent, a person has to undergo certain types of disciplines. He has to approach a guru, follow the instructions, be serious about practicing them. In course of time, you will have the result. Of course, if a person has tremendous faith, then faith itself will carry the person to the abode of supreme bliss. Showed the path of spirituality to everyone without any distinction. For the first time, Sri Ramakrishna has made spirituality easily accessible to everyone. That is the beauty of Sri Ramakrishna's life and teachings. Whoever comes to him would feel that easiness and would feel attracted to spiritual life. Anybody who would come near Sri Ramakrishna would be inspired with love and devotion to God. Different people practicing different religions, different ways, would come to Sri Ramakrishna and their ideals were kindled by Sri Ramakrishna, and he would give every one of them whatever they aspired for. The devotees of Sri Ramachandra would come and directly see Sri Ramakrishna as the embodiment of Sri Rama himself. Devotees of Lord Krishna would approach him and see Lord Krishna himself in the form of Sri Ramakrishna. Even so, those who practice Christianity, followers of Lord Christ, would also see their chosen ideal in Sri Ramakrishna. So what does it mean? Everyone, whoever it may be, that would come to Sri Ramakrishna would feel his spiritual ideal kindled. It indicates that Sri Ramakrishna is the embodiment of all religions and he is the embodiment of all gods and goddesses. as rivers merge into ocean. All infinite forms of gods and goddesses merge into Sri Ramakrishna. So this highest spiritual ideal is given to us in this form, Sri Ramakrishna's form, who represents both impersonal and personal aspect of God. He is Brahman, and at the same time he is Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and all gods and goddesses. So Sri Ramakrishna could explain all the different paths of spirituality very clearly. He classified the people in clear terms. There are jnanis, there are bhaktas, there are karmis, there are people who meditate upon. Each class has to go in its own way. There should not be any mixture or there should not be any confusion in their ways. That point Sri Ramakrishna has made clear again and again. For example, the jnanis, their attitude, their thinking, their meditation is on their inner self. They always feel, I am that pure self, Satchidananda, Chidanandoham. I am that supreme knowledge bliss. I am that supreme light. I am not associated with this body or mind or any such things. All these upadhis are dissociated. And he is firmly convinced, and he wants to be convinced that he is nothing but that pure self. So his whole concentration and meditation is on that ideal, realizing that pure, absolute Brahman, that impersonal aspect, not associated with any upadhis, who is all pervading. They enjoy that path. There were many sages. When Sri Ramachandra went to forest, Sri Ramakrishna met hosts of sages and seers, hundreds of ascetics, spiritual aspirants, spending their whole time and energy towards their goal. Many of them didn't recognize Sri Ramachandra as incarnation of God. For many of these sages, Sri Ramachandra was only a Sri Rama, the king, son of Dashrath, human being. That's all. Those people, their view of seeing God was different. They would see God in a formless aspect. The followers of jnana, path of knowledge. But there were some rishis, like Bharadwaj Muni, who did recognize Sri Ramachandra as the veritable manifestation of that Supreme Being, Lord Vishnu, the sustainer of the whole universe. Whereas the bhaktas, they see the same universe in a different way. For them, the whole universe is the glory of God. Unless you see and enjoy the glory, how can you appreciate the person who is responsible for that glory? So they are led towards the same Supreme Paramatman through the way of glory. They want to enjoy the glory of God. They just want that way of expression. They want to feel it. They want to be associated with body, they want to be associated with mind, they want body and mind, they don't want to give up their body and mind, what people many times call individuality. They go to the extent of telling they want to retain their individuality. In fact, if God were gracious that every body can go in their gross form to the abode of God, probably everybody would have enjoyed like anything. But it is not like that. Body ages. What do you do with the sick body going there to the abode? You require a new body, fresh body. You require a fresh cloth. If you wear a fresh cloth, washed cloth, neat and clean, you feel highly refreshed. In the same way, by our regular spiritual practices, we make ourselves refreshed. Consciously, we must undergo spiritual disciplines. Then it is possible to feel ourselves refreshed. It's very important. A man staying in a dirty place cannot enjoy the concept of purity. The very thought doesn't occur to him at all. So Sri Ramakrishna would explain, such people are like common fly. It always sits on the filth. Like that, we have spoiled our mind to such an extent we don't even realize to what extent we have gone down, to what extent we have soiled completely our whole vehicle, this human vehicle. It has become so dirty. Even hundreds of births may not clean that dirt. On the other hand, we go on accumulating the dirt, birth after birth, because every time we take birth, every time we do all sorts of bad things and dirty things and make ourselves more dirty. The more we run away from God means the more we have become dirty. So cleansing is not an easy thing. It requires strong detergent. Ordinary soap will not remove the stains. Strong detergent is necessary. So, everyone has to undertake spiritual discipline. You must die in discipline. Even if you have to meet with death You must embrace it. You must go to that extent. Willpower must be made strong enough to ride over the death himself. Then spirituality is possible. Otherwise, yoga is not simply such a easy thing that everybody can acquire. The mind should be quiet, in a tranquil position, samabhava, equanimity. The mind must be in an equanimous state. Then only you can become qualified to practice yoga. Simply calling yourself a yogi doesn't make you a yogi. There are so many people who have got that name, yogi. What about life? Life is very important. To understand that practical real life, please come to Sri Ramakrishna. I am not telling this in a dogmatic way. I am just telling out of infinite consideration that here is the gold. Here is a person who is showing us the way, right royal way, how to go, where to go. Everything is kept clean. It requires good samskaras to understand Sri Ramakrishna, to develop love and devotion to Sri Ramakrishna, to appreciate and practice the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. We must have very good samskaras, very good samskaras. Then so Sri Ramakrishna classified the people. Some people, they are bound. For them, playing in the world is not complete. Probably they may need millions of births till they realize that they have played enough in this world. Such people are bound souls. How God is gracious to them? Because God is not forcing them to come to Him. That is His grace. Because of His grace only, people are allowed to play their games. Let them enjoy. Enjoy the world. You want to enjoy more? Have it. Go on enjoying until you feel indigested. Then come back. I don't reject. I don't reject. Any time you want to come back, you are welcome. That is the grace of Sri Ramakrishna. That is the grace of God. We must understand grace that way. We are suffering because of our own foolhardiness. We are undergoing miseries because of our own bad actions. Because we have not trained our life properly. We don't know how to live the life. We don't want to live the life in a proper way. We think wrong is right. That is the worst part we are facing now. Everything topsy-turvy. Bad is considered good, good is considered bad. Such is the condition of the bound souls. To what extent we are bound, we have to measure ourselves, referring to all these indications. There are a second class of people which Sri Ramakrishna has classified. They are struggling persons. That is, they are on a transit line. They know the bad effect of the world. They know it is stupidity to indulge in the worldly ways anymore. How to get rid of these things? How do we draw? To whom I should go and seek the help? To whom I should take refuge? Struggling. Intense struggling in the mind. Terrible struggling. It's a kind of burning, as it were. It is necessary. The more we burn, the more we become strong. The impurities are purged out by burning. Struggle. But if we are honest and sincere in struggling, we will recognize the grace of God. Somebody will come and help us. They show us the positive way. Mahatmas. Their only concern is how people could be raised up. How the suffering can be removed from their mind. So they come to our rescue. As I said earlier, the bound people may not need the necessity of Mahatmas. Let them have their own company. Let them enjoy the nightclub. Let them enjoy TV. Let them enjoy all sorts of things which the world gives them. But those who are struggling, they are shown the way. The third class of people, liberated. They have reached their goal. They have achieved enlightenment in this life, and they are enjoying the life to the maximum, because there is nothing that binds them. They are absolutely free. They know what they are. So, they are third class of people. Class 3. Class 4, ever free. Some persons are born in this world, but they are not bound. Even from the birth they are free. Even from the birth they are spiritual. But why should they be again in this world? Just to enjoy the fun. They know they have come to enjoy the fun. And they want to help the people who are in the path of spirituality. Sri Ramakrishna tells, whoever is struggling in the spiritual life will surely come to me. And finally Sri Ramakrishna tells, there are different degrees of manifestation of God. Wherever there is glory, there the manifestation of God is perceptible. It is true even with the case of people who are more compassionate, kind, loving. God's manifestation is there. Otherwise they can't love like that. They can't be kind-hearted like that. It is God's power. If it is not God's power, then we would be selfish in our love. We would be loving our own self, hating others. We have been studying Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, chapter 11, which we have completed last week. Sri Ramakrishna has spoken about spirituality, how it should be practiced in our daily life. Unless we are practical in our approach, it is impossible to get away from the clutches of the world. On the other hand, it is difficult to get release. We will not be able to make any headway in our life. We continue to remain in ignorance as long as we are not able to light the lamp of knowledge. Spirituality is a light. Spirituality is a lamp of knowledge. First of all, we should know we are in darkness. That is the first important thing that we should understand. If we think we are all right, we are in the light, we don't need any more light. Fine. Don't talk about peacelessness, don't talk about suffering, misery, all sorts of things. Don't talk about bondage, etc. Enjoy. So time will come when he finds that he is utterly in darkness, he is completely disillusioned. So, everybody will come to that position to have that lamp of knowledge. The light of knowledge is very essential to dispel the darkness of ignorance. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, famous Upanishadic statement. The devotees who would come to Sri Ramakrishna many times asked, it is rather very difficult for the householders to practice spirituality. True. Why it is difficult? Why it is not possible for the person living in the world, enjoying the world, to attain spirituality? What's the problem? It is because he is always amidst terrible worldly diversions and temptations. Flash floods of carnality are too frequent. He doesn't know what he does next. Mind is swept away by these dissipations in so many ways. Even a detached householder has to be careful. It is not enough that he has developed non-attachment so he is safe all the time. No, you can't take it for granted. Sri Ramakrishna gave us the example of Janaka, who had known Brahman, who had realized Brahman, who had that knowledge of Brahman. But when he saw a woman, he bent down his head. He shrank from seeing a woman. She was surprised. And she said to him, well, I see you have not attained knowledge. You are still differentiating between man and woman. So as long as we keep our mind on this level, physical level, in the level of the world, we are bound to be under the spell of Maya. Suppose a room is filled with soot. If we move about there, body is sure to be stained. You can't avoid it. However clever you may be. There are some householder devotees practicing spirituality. Sometimes they are filled with emotion. Spiritual emotions come to them while doing puja, worship, or recitation, or in their morning prayers. They maintain that mood till they take their refreshments after the worship. Up to that point, somehow, spiritual mood is maintained. Thereafter, they became their old selves again. Rajasic and tamasic natures show up. That means the mind which was on a high level slides down very quickly under the slightest pretext. So, what we have to understand, it is very important to maintain the high level of the mind. High level means purity of the mind. The more the mind becomes pure, the more one becomes stable in spirituality. Spirituality is possible only with pure mind. It is true because of its long association with worldly ways and means, mind has become fickle, impetuous, strong, and tenacious because of its association, too much of association with the things of the world. No doubt it is difficult to constrain it. Unless you have some kind of check over the mind, how can you practice spirituality? You want spirituality, but mind doesn't want it. You sit for meditation, but you jump from sit and you go away. I can't sit. My mind runs helter-skelter. I cannot sit even a minute. People complain like that. That means he has no control over his own mind. He has lost that power of mastership over the mind. Now, this is the problem most of us are facing in this world. As long as we are in this world, mind is sure to become like that, just as a person in a room filled with soot, his clothes are stained by the black smoke. Even so, the clean mind, when associated with the worldly things, become tainted. So what is to be done? Is there no way out? Everything has got a way. Even though it is very difficult to pass through the forest paths, still you can get over, you can pass through the forest, you can go to the other side of the forest, only if you know how to walk through. So herein comes the help of the Mahatmas. They tell us, they guide us. We have to just follow. If you doubt, if you don't want to follow them, then suffering is your lot. Suffering. We have to learn. We must learn. We should learn. The whole life is for education. It is educating us in so many ways. Some people may get educated early, some people may take more time, but the fact is everybody has to get that education through the experience of life. Now, mind is fickle, restless, turbulent. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna in the Gita, chapter 6, Verse number 35. Asamshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham shalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. How beautifully Lord Krishna has said, how he has given prescription to control this turbulent mind, how to get into our hold. So what Lord Krishna gives us is that the mind can be brought under control by the exercise of repeated effort, which is called abhyas, and vairagya, which is called dispassion. Abhyasa, vairagya. These are the two weapons to fight the restless mind, to control the mind, to win over the mind. Lord Krishna says, no doubt it is true that it's difficult to control the mind. Mano durnigraham chalam. He didn't say mano anigraham. That means mind cannot be controlled. Lord Krishna didn't say that. He said it is difficult to control. That means there is hope. He assures that one need not be afraid of. Simply because a thing is strong, one need not be frightened. We must find out ways and means by the help of which we should be able to control it. To give an example, elephant is considered to be very strong animal. Everybody knows it. But then, even that elephant is controlled. If only one gets a small goad, that is a pointed stick, it is enough. The most powerful elephant is brought under control by just one small pointed stick. Similarly, wild animals such as tigers, lions, though they are terrible, they can be controlled by a small gun. They give another example. The ox, though it is very terrible, is brought under control through the rope drawn through its nose. So, it is possible to get control over the mind. So Lord Krishna has given two prescriptions to keep the mind under proper control. One is abhyasa, repeatedly doing the things that are proper, repeated practices, and the other, vairagya. This repeated effort, what we call abhyas, just I want to elaborate on this point. Abhyas. There are 5 ways of abhyas. 5 ways. The first way is mind runs after the things. There is nothing special about it. It is doing its job. So we should initiate proper counseling in our mind. so that the mind is made to turn inward. That's one way. The second way is the mind runs after distractions, so many things around. We should highlight the blemishes of them so that mind gets disgusted over them and then stops running after them. Thirdly, suppose the mind runs after something. We should not suppress it. Let it go. Let us take the position of witness, Sakshi Bhuta. Let me observe where my mind goes. Let it go. Let me see it. Where does it go? We should keep on observing the activities of the mind. Consciously you observe. Where is it going? Now it is going India. Now it is going Bombay. Next it is going Delhi. Next it is going Gulf. All right? But consciously you must watch. So, by constantly watching over the behavior of the mind, what would happen? The mind's power gets reduced because it knows its master is observing it. It becomes less and less power. Finally, it stops its ways of actions. It doesn't go anymore. It has no energy, it has no strength, it has no courage to go thereafter. They give another example. Suppose you keep on watching the thief. Suppose the thief knows somebody is watching him. I am speaking of ordinary thieves, not the modern, ultra-modern thieves who are not afraid of even police. I am talking about the normally speaking. Suppose a countryside thief. Suppose he sees somebody is watching him. Does he steal anything? He rather keeps quiet. Let that fellow go away afterwards, let me steal. So, even though the mind acts in its own whimsical way for some time, later on it calms down itself. It calms down. Suppose you get angry at somebody. At that time, watch your mind. Watch the mental waves. By doing like that, the anger doesn't translate into active action, but it dies out. The jnanis can see anger this way. So, they could control anger. Anger is under their control. Anger may come, but they don't act upon. They don't act upon. Simply because it comes, it doesn't mean that you should act immediately. No. Let that rascal remain there. That is the way of the jnanis. Whereas the ajnanis, they join with angry vibrations. And so they are unable to conquer the anger. That's the experience what we see. From one point of view, mind is to be conquered by mind itself. Again, to give an example, the red hot iron is hit upon and bent by the unheated iron. Even so, by the power of the right thinking and analysis, the mind can be brought under control. Fourth way, I told 5 ways of practicing abhyasa, repeated efforts. You must know the techniques. You apply all the techniques. That's what is to be done if you want to have spirituality in the life. That's why it is so difficult. We don't want to practice anything repeatedly, but we want the result. You want to enjoy orange fruit, but you don't take the trouble of growing the orange plant. Without growing the plant, you want to enjoy the fruit. How it is possible? It's contradictory. In the same way, if you want to practice spirituality, you must practice all these techniques. You must be practical. However difficult it might be, you must be ready to face whatever difficulties that might come. Then only you will be established well in spirituality. Now the fourth way of abhyas is the restless mind has to be brought under the realm of Atman. The Upanishads keep on telling us, all the Upanishads, 108 Upanishads, even there are more. Every Upanishad tells. What does it tell? Upanishads deal with the substratum of the thing. It goes to the core of the subject. Everything is Brahman alone. Sarvam khalvidam Brahma. Another Upanishad says, Isha vasyamidam sarvam yat kincha jagatyan jagati. The whole universe, whatever you see, is the abode of Lord Shiva. So this idea must be thought of with all concentrated mind. When the mind is well established in this knowledge, in this idea, everything is Brahman. There's nothing else but Brahman. Call it by any name you want. Mind is well established in this knowledge, then where can it go? There is nothing other than Atman to be seen, to be achieved, to be angered at. So mind cannot act upon in its own way. From this knowledge, there is no place where the mind should go upon. In this state, mind is not mind at all. But this discipline requires tremendous power of intellect. Tikshna buddhi is important. The intellect should have been thoroughly cultured. Everybody has got intellect. But if the intellect is not cultured properly, what is the use of that intellect? You don't know how to use it. It is just wasted. So it is to be cultured thoroughly by viveka and vichara. Viveka and vichara. By discrimination and power of analysis, you must develop. Intellectual development is wonderful. It is remarkably wonderful. Now, there is another stage, there is another way of abhyas, the last one which I am talking about, the fifth way. That is, from the non-dualistic point of view, how the spirituality is to be practiced. That is, in the Advaita state, one without a second. When you hold on to that idea, there is nothing like mind. What is, then, is only Atman. Suppose there is a snake, there is a rope, but due to some factor, you are not able to see it as a rope, but you see it as a snake. That means you imagined that rope to be a snake. So also in Atman, mind is simply an imagination. When the rope is known, when you become aware, it is rope only, then the snake idea is falsified. In the same way, when one realizes Atman, the true self of every being, where does your mind go? How can it any longer desire another thing? So through this type of viveka and vichara, mind does not remain as mind, but becomes Atman itself. Anyway, these are the 5 broad methods given to practice abhyas, that is repeated efforts, how we should do. If there are more methods, you are welcome to practice all of them. What is needed is, don't be fooled by your mind. That is to be understood. Then the next point which Lord Krishna has said is, repeated efforts is all right, but along with that you must have vairagya. Vairagya is important. Vairagya, if abhyasa has to go without any hurdles, we should develop dispassion towards impermanent things. Vairagyameva bhayam. Vairagya is the abode of nirbhaya. It is the abode of fearlessness. Where there is vairagya, there is no fear. Seeing perishable quality and other blemishes in the seeable things, we should no more become interested in them. That is vairagya. When this is established, mind stops running after externals. It wants to become inward. We have to keep on thinking about what is what. All the things what we see in this world, they're all under the jurisdiction of time. All in time get destroyed. Nobody can hold on to anything. Even the most beloved body which you have nourished all these 40, 50, 60 years. One person was telling, he lived for 150 years. Then, after nourishing the body for 150 years, then the body dropped out. With all his personal care, 500% care, attention, medication. With all that, the most beloved body has gone. Gone without trace. Without trace. So that means everything goes away in time. What is it that is not perishable? The body has dropped, but not the inner content, not the consciousness, the Chaitanya principle, the living force, what we call Atman. That is not perishable. That is the only thing that is external, that is eternal, and we must desire that Atman and we must achieve it. So that's a very important resolve that we should make, to make our life spiritual. You must have this goal perfect. My goal is to achieve the realization of the Atman, to know the true self. What is that true self? So, I have to say that. So, worldly enjoyments, they never satisfy us. Is there anybody who comes and tells, Swamiji, I am well satisfied by the enjoyments? He wants more and more. In fact, he becomes angry over his body. Oh, my body has become weak, I can't enjoy more. I could have eaten more, but I have become old. What has happened? He becomes angry. So, enjoyments never satisfy us. Desires are also not lessened. In fact, enjoying the desires make him more desirous of things. Desires increase desires. So, the ultimate result of all these things is bondage becomes very hard, tightened. You're tightened nicely. No chance for retreat at all unless you struggle very hard to. That's what I'm telling. Many people know they are perfectly all right. Just like people talking, I'm quite well in prison. I'm getting okay, I'm getting food, everything, I'm working. As long as the person thinks like that, there is no point in talking about freedom, etc. Only it becomes relevant if you become aware of what is wrong. Then only you can rectify it. So spirituality is like that. If we practice spirituality, bearing all these points, then whether you're a householder, whether you're a monk, anybody else, whether you're a Hindu, whether you're a Christian, Muslim, be anybody. Doesn't matter. Whether you wear white dress or orange dress or red dress or yellow dress, have any dress. Have anything you want. Spirituality is possible only when the mind is under control. When you are not swept away by the desires, when you are able to kick away the desires, then you are the conqueror. You are satisfied only in your own self. Your satisfaction is to be realized only in the Atman, not in anywhere else. So, this firm resolve must make us more rooted in spirituality. Spirituality becomes stable only when we have vairagya.